5 months ago, my significant other was sitting in a parking lot minding her own business when this happened.
With our newer system. Oh my gosh.
Now normally when you're involved in a fender bender, it usually starts with a "are you okay?" and ends with both parties exchanging insurance information. But this situation would be very different. You see, because when she confronted the person responsible for damaging our vehicle, she was instantly met with this.
My husband's a lawyer. If you want to lie, then we could go down that road because I know the car's never touched. Write down your shit and leave me the hell alone. I'm not in the mood.
Now, I thought that by having dash camera footage combined with the testimony of several witnesses, this would be a simple, cut and dry, easy claim. Well, I was wrong. You see, because when I reached out to this lady's insurance provider, State Farm, they basically told me that unless I can show them actual proof, like video evidence from a rear-facing camera that shows their driver hitting my car, they are not going to accept liability. So I reached out to my insurance provider, who of course has my back, but they got the same response that I did, which is State Farm is not accepting liability. So what are my options now? Well, unless I want to drag this lady to court and sit in front of a judge and let the judge decide who's at fault here, there's pretty much nothing else I can do. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking, and trust me, I had those exact same thoughts. But I like to find the good in every bad experience. And for as bad as this was, I'm just thankful that it wasn't any worse. I mean, at the end of the day, it was only a small scratch and nobody got injured. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take the L this time, because from today on forward, I'm gonna make sure that this never happens ever again. That's because in this video, I'm going to be installing this Viofo A139 3-channel dash camera inside of my brand new 2021 Toyota Highlander. When I'm done, I will have a front-facing camera, a rear-facing camera, and an inside-facing camera. So, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have a circuit tester like this, because we are going to use this to find a constant and ACC fuse slot. ACC fuse slots only have power when the ignition is on, but constant fuse slots always have power. In this 2021 Toyota Highlander, the fuse panel is located on the driver's side under the steering column. And the first thing you'll want to do is ground your circuit tester, then, with the ignition off, find a constant fuse slot. If the fuse is receiving power, the tester will light up, like this. Now, with the ignition still off, let's find an ACC fuse slot. When you locate a fuse that does not light up the circuit tester, turn the ignition on and test the same fuse. The circuit tester should light up now. Now that we have identified which fuse slots we will be using, let's grab the Hardwire kit and your fuse tabs. The yellow wire, or battery wire, is going to go in your constant fuse slot. The red wire, or ACC wire, is going to go in your ACC fuse slot. Lastly, the black wire, this is just ground. After you crimp all your wires together, you're ready to install your cameras. The first camera that you're looking at right here is the biggest camera that comes in this kit, and that's the front camera. So I'm going to start with installing this camera first. After I install this one, I'm going to move to the interior camera, which is the camera that has the infrared sensors around the lens. Then lastly, we're going to install the most important camera probably of this entire kit, and that's the rear camera. Now the rear camera is probably going to be a little tricky because I need to figure out a way to hook it up here and hide the wires. We're going to have to take this panel off. We're going to have to pull this grommet out and fish the wires in. That's probably going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm not going to lie, I'm looking forward to that part. Because all of your wires are going to be ran here, let's start with the front-facing camera. Make sure to clean the glass first and place your camera where you think it will work best on your windshield. Then do the same for the interior camera and the rear camera. With the rear camera, you're going to want to run your wire through the rubber grommet in the hatch door and guide it through the headliner. Take your time with this will take a few minutes, but when you're done, it will look something like this. Alright, so I'm just about done and I'm ready to show you guys how everything looks. But before I do, if you are basically installing this in a 2021 Toyota Highlander and you're using the same fuse panel, you're not going to be able to put this cover back on. So what you're gonna have to do is, if you wanna keep everything kind of looking stock with the covers and everything back on, you're probably gonna wanna use the fuse panel inside of the engine bay. It's just gonna require you running wires through the firewall. No big deal if you have the extra time to do that. I may actually end up relocating my harness inside of the engine bay later on in the future, but for now, I just want to test everything and see how it goes. I'm going to keep this in a safe place, probably inside of the center console, so I don't lose this, but just wanted to give you guys that heads up. Now let me show you what it looks like here. Starting with the rear camera, we got the wire nice and tucked inside of here. It still closes because this wire is so thin. And then from here, it goes to this grommet right there, down here. Then it comes out through here and it goes all along the top of the perimeter on the driver's side until it gets to the front. Now in the front, same thing. We got the wires run up there. You can barely see them. All along down here, tucked away there. And on this side, we have the main camera, the front camera, and then we have the interior camera. Now, this wire, I don't know what I want to do with this wire. I'm gonna try to see if I can force it inside here, but I don't really like that it's hanging here. This is just a time-consuming thing. You just gotta take your time, you know, tucking these wires, and eventually it'll look really nice. But for the most part, this looks pretty clean and everything was straightforward. Okay, so obviously I'm in the car right now. It's been a couple of days, and I have to say I am really impressed with the way everything's turned out so far. The quality of these cameras are really, really good for what it is. I mean, I paid about $230, I think, for everything, including the Hardwire kit. So that's not too bad as far as price points go, but it's not the cheapest, it's not the most expensive. These things can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. But overall, definitely worth the money. Now, if you look at the front-facing camera, it's really clear. It's got a nice wide view here, so you can kind of see the road. And same thing with the rear camera. Now, the rear camera is not as high quality. I believe the front camera is 1080p. I think the rear is 720, give or take. I'm not quite sure what the specs are off my head, but I really can't tell the difference. And honestly, I think it's better to have something back there than nothing. Same thing with the interior camera. Now, the thing about the interior camera, some people may question if they want to have it. They may feel like it's an invasion of your privacy, and that's optional. You obviously have the camera. You don't have to really install it. You can unplug it and leave it set aside. I was in kind of like on the fence between installing it and not installing it, but I felt like it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not actually have it. So yeah. Now the interior camera does have the infrared sensors on the side of it, so it does capture some nighttime footage inside the car. And parking mode, I haven't really gotten used to that yet, but I have my parking mode set for, I believe, 8 hours. I'm gonna play with that and see how that goes. Again, if somebody hits me, hopefully the parking mode works as advertised, and you know, there won't be any problems there. But overall, this is a really, really great system. My favorite thing that I like most is the actual application. Now, for some reason, the App Store has a 2-star rating on this app. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if there was versions of the app prior to the version that I have on my phone now where it wasn't doing so well. I downloaded the app. I was able to connect to my camera pretty quickly, and I haven't had any issues so far. And from what I'm seeing, the application is basically the only way you can control the camera system. So I basically went in and I adjusted all the settings, and I noticed there that you can actually download actual footage from the dash camera to your smartphone, which is really convenient, especially for someone like me. And there it is. Now you know how easy it is to install one of these dash cameras inside of your car. And I would like to point out that you might have noticed that the interior camera may have appeared to have been in black and white. I have infrared mode set to auto. This is like night vision driving. So at the time I was filming, I guess it was a little bit on the darker side, so that it was automatically kicked in. Again, you can adjust that and turn it on or off at your convenience. And normally it actually looks pretty good when it's not in auto. But hey, that's what it was. If you guys have any questions about everything that you just saw, leave a comment in the comment section. You guys like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you liked what you saw. This is Ed signing off. Until next time, peace.